welcome to this week's Hope Encounter. I am so glad you're here and I'm so glad to be back. So, welcome, welcome, welcome. I wanted to share a story with you guys. God often talks to me through my life, through just different things that I do in my life. And specifically, recently, I started to swim. And so I didn't know how to swim, and I'm learning. And God's just been talking to me a lot through it. And I wanted to share a story with you guys about comparison, alignment, and catching his breath. And so we're going to go ahead and get started. So, like I said, I didn't know how to swim. In January, I showed up to the pool super insecure, super scared, but ready for change, just ready for something new, something fresh, and ready to get healthy. And I was just determined. So I showed up, and at the time, I would always say I can back float to save my life, but I can't swim. So it's kind of my joke, but it was for real. Like I could not swim for anything. And so, I showed up and I'm like, I'm going to swim. So I started back floating and I realized that I didn't even do that right. But I kept showing up and just kept learning and just kept going, kept looking up YouTube videos and asking friends. And I found out that there's like a whole swimmer community around me, which was amazing. So I had lots of people to go, what about this? What about that? So as I kind of can have continued over the last, I guess it's almost 8 months now, just continuing to practice, continuing to learn, continuing to glean, ask questions, you know, learn and grow in that. I taught myself how to do a dolphin kick, but on my back. Started slowly dipping my face in the water. The water has always been something that was super scary for me. Um, when I was little, I got caught in an undercurrent in a river, and I think that there's just been something in there that's like, okay, I'm good as long as my face isn't under the water. So I started to force myself, okay, I'm going to put my face under the water. I'm okay. I'm safe. I'm not going to drown. This is okay. And I just kept showing up, kept showing up, kept showing up, and kept allowing God to minister to me as I worked through those anxieties, as I worked through that fear, and continue to press forward and continue to learn how to swim. Um, I just kept going. And one day at the end of the school year, sorry, the end of the school year, I decided that this summer was going to be my summer. I was going to learn finally as an adult how to swim the forward crawl. So that's just, the regular swim that you see people swim. And I was like, by the end of summer, I am going to know how to forward crawl, whatever that takes, however that looks. And so I started to look up YouTube videos, started to do research, started to ask more questions. And one day I just went, you know what? If I don't just do it, I'm just not going to do it. So I just decided to be brave that day and I went for it. And every lap, I mean, every time I would put my face in the water, I was fighting panic. I was fighting that fear of like, oh my gosh, this is unnatural. This is so scary. And my breath, it was hard. Like it was so hard. My breathing was hard. The strokes were hard. I was exhausted after one lap. It was just really, really hard work, but I didn't quit. I kept showing up and eventually putting my face in the water wasn't scary anymore. It was just, okay, I'm doing this. I'm doing this. And I started to get confident in what I was doing and feeling good. And then one day, one of the other swimmers came to me and he said, hey, I've been watching you swim and I would like to know if I could teach you a couple things. I'm watching you and I'm seeing a couple things that I think would really help you. So I was like, yeah, teach me, show me. So he took the time to show me how my stroke should be, where my breath should be, kind of more of the rhythm that I should have. And it really helped me to see it with my eyes instead of just watching it on a YouTube video where they go so fast. Like he really, really took the time to teach me. And in the moment, I was like, wow, this is amazing. I'm so thankful. And as soon as he got in his lap and he started swimming away, I wanted to burst into tears. I just wanted to get out of the pool and I wanted to run into the shower and I wanted to bawl my eyes out and hide and maybe even just never come back because I felt so ashamed that I didn't know how to do it, that I was feeling so confident that I was doing something right and, found out that I wasn't doing something right. So I did not hide. I did not cry. I got back into my lane and I went, okay, I'm going to apply what he just showed me and I'm going to learn this thing because I am determined that by the end of summer, I will know how to swim. So I started working on it and I started to feel it and it was amazing because I I started to feel that rhythm and I started to feel it was a very spiritual thing for me to feel where the breath was and to feel where the rhythm was and as I kind of started to feel that I kind of heard God start to talk to me and he's like you feel my rhythm of life, you feel my rhythm, my presence, and you catch my breath. It's important to catch my breath, but you have to be in my rhythm in order to catch my breath. And I noticed that as one of the things that the gentleman corrected me on was that I would lift my head out of the water and then I would turn my head to catch a breath. And he was like, you got to quit lifting your head out of the water. You got to keep your head down. You got to look at the bottom of the pool. And it's a soft tilt to the side with your shoulder and your face, and so it was just this thing. But I noticed that the reason I was lifting my head was because I every time I would lift my head up, I would scan the pool and look around to see what everybody else was doing. Was everybody else in their lane? Was anybody else watching me? Were they judging me? Were they, anything? I was just so insecure. And God started talking to me. He's like, you got to stay in your lane. You got to stay focused. You got to look at your lane, and your lane's the only lane that matters. And when you lift your head up to look around and scan the room to see what other people are doing, to see if you blend in, to see if you're matching them, to see, if they're judging you, your breath, you're struggling and you breathe and you're choking on the water. You're literally making this so hard. And he was like, you're working so hard to swim when my rhythm is so easy. He's like, when you get that rhythm right and you get your face in the pool and you're in alignment and your body and your face is where it should be, and you turn your body and your face just right, and my breath is there. He's like, I'm there every time. I'm there every time. And I just really felt like he was really just sharing me with me in life. When we look around, we look at, everybody else in our life and we compare ourselves and we go, wow, so and so much further than me. I'm not there, or gosh, I really wish I could be like that person. And you try to be like that person and it's exhausting. And I just feel like God is really saying, he's saying, stay in your lane, get in alignment with who he created you to be, who he created me to be, because that's our lane. That's where, when we're in alignment and we're in his rhythm and we're moving with him, his breath is there every time we need that breath, every time, we need that source of encouragement, that source of life, that source of joy. When we're in his rhythm and we're catching his breath, it's so easy. I noticed that when I was in that rhythm, when I was swimming and I had that, it was so easy to swim. In fact, I could swim several laps back to back, whereas before one lap would do me in. I would get there and back and I would like, oh, I gotta breathe. And then all of a sudden, when I was in alignment and my rhythm was correct and my breathing was correct, I was swimming, 5 laps in a row, easy, maybe even 10. It was so easy. And I realized, I'm like, I have been working so hard to do this thing that, yeah, I'm learning. Yeah, I'm growing, but I don't have to work so stinking hard. And all it took was alignment. All it took was me staying in my lane and paying attention to what God was talking to me about, and catching his rhythm and catching his breath. And so I really wanted to encourage you guys that, um, you know, we all have those moments of comparison. We all have those moments where we look around the room, we look around the people in our lives, and we look at ourselves and we compare ourselves. But God is calling us to come into alignment with his word. He created us on purpose, for a purpose and a unique purpose and a unique calling. It's not about being like someone else or looking like someone else or sounding like someone else. It's about being truly who we are. It's about spending that time with him to find his rhythm, to catch his breath. To me, his breath is that empowerment. It's that source of hope. It's that source of life. His breath is our life. He breathed into us and we became. So it's that rhythm and that alignment with him that carries us through and makes this life so easy. It doesn't have to be so hard. It doesn't have to be so confusing. So I just really want to encourage you. What are the areas that maybe in your life that you're swimming in someone else's lane? You're looking into someone else's lane, or you're trying to cross that boundary and get into their lane. I want to encourage you, come back into your lane. Spend that time with God. Get into alignment with his heart. Get into alignment with where he's taking you, where he's calling you in this season. And find his breath. Find that rhythm with him. It doesn't matter what other people think. They're going to have their opinions. They're going to have, people are going to have their distractions, and that's okay. But just stay in your lane. Find that alignment with him. Find that rhythm with him, and catch his breath for your life in this season. So again, God wrote your lane in your unique DNA. He wrote it when he made you. And so, he didn't make a mistake. He put that in you. He put your creative design inside of you when he made you, and it's perfect. And so your job is to discover that beautiful, wonderful calling and purpose that he put inside of you, and dive into the deep end, go all the way in, and stay in your lane, be in alignment with him, and listen to him. Oftentimes we think that so many people, they're thinking about us, and they're watching us, and they're, judging us, but really that's our own self-projected thing. No one's watching you as much as you think that they are. They're just not. They're so worried and wrapped up in their own lane and wrapped up in their own thing that they're not concerned about you. They're not going, oh wow, that person just doesn't know what they're doing. And if they are, because there are people that do that, it's only out of their own insecurity. It's only out of their own lack of identity and knowing who they are that they would judge. They're projecting their insecurities onto you. So just ignore it. Just be you, be in your lane, and God may send encouragers along the way, those coaches that say, hey, try it this way. Hey, have you thought about that? Go ahead and listen to them and get back into your rhythm and find that alignment with God, and take what is true and what is him, what he's showing you to do, and swim in that, swim in that lane. But, be aware too, there are going to be voices of distraction. There are going to be those voices that say, hey, you should try this, or hey, you should try it that way. And those are distractions. So you have to really use your wisdom. You have to really dive in and use discernment to know what the voice of the Father is saying and what his rhythm is and what his alignment is and what lane he's calling you specifically to be in. And that comes from intimacy. That comes from those quiet moments. That comes from practicing his presence and being in, the pool reminds me of being in his presence. The water is just wrapped around me, and it's his presence wrapped around me. And so you have to take time being in his presence. You have to take time being in the pool of life in his presence, and you find that rhythm, and you find that joy and that breath, and you just keep swimming and staying in your lane. So again, don't get distracted. Stay aligned. Listen to his voice. Trust that his breath is going to be there for you every time, and just keep moving. So I want to just pray for you guys as we close out. It made me kind of think of that really quick side note. It made me think of Dory from Finding Nemo, how she was just like, just keep swimming, just keep swimming. It was like, God is just calling us to just keep swimming, to just keep moving forward, to just keep showing up to our lane. And even if it feels like we're not making progress, I want to tell you, you are making progress. You are growing. And every time you show up and every time you choose to be in alignment with him and you choose to listen to his voice and you choose to stay in your lane, you're growing and you're learning. And that's the beautiful thing is every time you choose that, and his breath is there. He's going to encourage you. He's going to speak to you. He's going to guide you. You don't have to be afraid. You could just jump in and go, okay, God, I trust you. This is what I feel like you're calling me to do. I'm going to give you my yes. And as we've talked about before, with our yes, he goes before us and he defeats those giants in the land. He defeats those insecurities. He defeats those anxieties. He defeats that fear that holds us back. He defeats depression. He defeats, all of those things that so often we allow to hold us back and keep us from jumping in. With our yes, when we choose to be in alignment, when we choose to catch his rhythm, when we choose to trust his breath and we stay in our lane, we're going to be just fine. He's going to carry us in the water of his presence, in the water of his spirit. And you're going to find out that you can actually swim, and better than you thought. Like I shared before, I believe I shared, or I will share, I got into a pool that was 13 feet deep. And I found such peace and such bliss in that 13-foot water. It was amazing. Being in the deep end, he was speaking to me about some other things. It's like, go deep, go deeper. And the deeper you go, the more of his presence you find, the more of his pleasure you find. And the more you realize, I actually am called for this. I actually can do this. I've actually learned a lot more than I realized, and I've grown a lot more than I knew. And you'll find yourself in that deep end going, wow, God, you've done so much. God, you're so good. You're so faithful. And then you continue to give him your yes, and you continue to show up. So I just want to encourage you guys with that. Keep swimming, keep moving forward, stay in alignment with him, keep listening to his voice, keep hearing him, and just keep swimming. Just keep swimming. Just keep going into his presence and finding him, encountering him, and letting him uncover your DNA purpose, the thing that he created you for. And it's going to be awesome, my friends. All right. Thank you so much for joining me for this episode of the Hope Encounter.